On today's episode of the Cryptoverse. Segregated Witness has officially locked in on the Litecoin network and will activate in 2 weeks' time. So you're paranoid about the security of your cryptocurrency, and you want to buy a hardware wallet so you can keep your money safe. But which hardware wallet should you buy? Well, the Crypto Hardware Wallet Superstore has written a free buyer's guide especially for you. Check it out today by clicking on the link in the video description below. Hi there guys, and welcome to the latest episode of the Cryptoverse, your regular dose of news and commentary on Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies and blockchains. I am your host, Chris Coney. Now today is Thursday the 27th of April 2017. I'm not going to put the announcements separately, I'm just going to do them right now. Kevin Gladstone won the free copy of the Bitcoin Empire game. I was going to announce it today, but I posted it in the comments of that video episode, and he's already got back to me and given me his address, so I can post it out. The only reason I'm mentioning it is so that everyone else knows that yes, there was a winner. It was Kevin Gladstone for his suggestion that Adam Smith would be a good character to include in the Bitcoin card game. So there it is. Kevin Gladstone's won it, and it's on his way to him now. Now let's move on to the market roundup courtesy of coinmarketcap.com. Let's actually start the day off with Ethereum Core, which is up 8.6% today. $54.60 a coin for Ethereum Core, and a market cap now nearing $5 billion, which is about a quarter of Bitcoin's market cap. We might think a quarter, that's not a lot. Well, it is a lot. It's the nearest any other blockchain has got to come near to Bitcoin's valuation, so good for them. For the truly insane, though, today we have to turn to Ethereum Classic and NEM. Ethereum Classic is up 25.7% today. $5.03 a coin it's at now, so it's peeped over the $5 mark. $458 million market cap for Ethereum Classic. Now, I know you folks like to know what's behind these price moves whenever possible, so I reached out to the Ethereum Classic community on Slack while I was preparing for this episode. Now, I had a chat with Tom Z, who is at Sinz, S-I-N-Z on Slack, and while there is a lot going on in the Ethereum community, two big influences on the price are a new investment fund that is launching on Ethereum Classic, which you can easily find in the news headlines. So that's number one. And number two, Ethereum Classic's unique differentiator of being truly immutable, which is unlike Ethereum Core. And that leads to apps like Stampery deciding to build on Ethereum Classic specifically. Now, if you remember, we spoke about Stampery on a recent episode. And if you watch that episode, it makes complete sense why they choose Ethereum Classic over Ethereum Core, because the Stampery use case requires certainty about the data being immutable, which you can't guarantee on Ethereum Core. Now, if you'd like to join the Ethereum Classic community, I will put a link to their Slack in the sources for today's show. They have a trading channel in there with over 2,000 people in it, so maybe that's of interest to you if you want to keep on top of the Ethereum Classic price movements. Now let's move on to something else here I noticed. There's now an increasing number of $500 million blockchains appearing here. If this continues, then the minimum criteria for entering the top 10 is going to be a $500 billion market cap or higher. NEM actually is $455 million market cap, which is thanks to a 21% price jump today to 5 cents a coin. Now Lisk actually is way down here in 18th place, but it's also gained 22.6% today, moving up to 54 cents a coin and a $57 million market cap. By contrast, the biggest loser today is Pivex with a 9% loss, leaving it in 14th place with $63 million of market cap and a value of $1.19 a coin. And Tether is still stuck there down at 92 cents a coin, although there has been almost $20 million of trading in the last 24 hours. But like I said the other day, watch it spring back up the minute that Tether resolves its banking problems. So in terms of the news then, I've turned to bitcoin.com for this article entitled SegWit locks in on Litecoin and will activate. Now the first time Litecoin reached the activation threshold, it fell back down again, as we spoke about. This time though, it's held above the threshold, at least long enough to achieve locked in status, meaning consensus has been reached on its activation. So let's see what we've got here in terms of a bit further detail. Early on Wednesday, Litecoin creator Charlie Lee tweeted, quote, SegWit on Litecoin will be locked in approximately 19 hours, but we already reached the required number of signing blocks, or signaling blocks, which is 6,048. Close quote. His tweet shortly followed the official Litecoin channel's tweet that says, SegWit locked in, target reached, 6,048 out of 8,064 blocks. Now that's double the confirmation that I like to see. Not only did I verify this event by looking at the data myself, I felt better that Charlie Lee actually confirmed this, or rather the official Litecoin Twitter confirmed this, just in case somehow I misread the numbers, yeah. It then goes on to say down here in the orange, the Litecoin tracking site Litecoin Block Half explains, which is the site that I use, it says the site shows that currently 6,328 out of the 7,911 blocks, which is near enough 80%, are signaling for SegWit, adding that, quote, after another activation period, SegWit will become active, close quote. So follow me with this calculation that I did to have the confidence that I am correct in saying that activation is coming in 2 weeks. So I'm going to bring up a calculator here. So if an activation period is 8,064 blocks, right? And a Litecoin block takes 2.5 minutes. So we multiply 8,064 by 2.5 and we get 20,160 minutes in an activation period, right? So if we then divide that by the 60 minutes that are in an hour, it works out at 336 hours. If we then divide that by the 24 hours in a day, we get 14 days or 2 weeks. So in 2 weeks' time, we'll have shiny new SegWit blocks being mined on the Litecoin network. Now, once I realized this was going to happen, I then took the next logical step mentally by asking the question, does Litecoin actually need this extra capacity? The problem I found when searching for an answer to this was that there seems to be few or no tools that I could use to find this data. I actually wanted to see a chart showing the history of Litecoin's mempool, which is the pool of unconfirmed transactions, and I actually wasn't able to find one. Now, there are many for Bitcoin, but I wasn't able to find one for Litecoin. It's not a huge deal though, because the significance of the Litecoin activation of SegWit is more than just increasing the capacity of the Litecoin network itself. What's going to happen now is that there will be real-world, live, mainnet data coming in on what actually happens when the segregated witness technology is activated on a code base that is almost identical, genetically speaking, to Bitcoin. And then finally, all of the unprovable, like what ifs, the fears, the doubts, and the uncertainty will be replaced by, well, certainty, I guess. I mean, once we have some hard data, and if SegWit works as expected, well, that gives significant ammunition to the Bitcoin core argument, does it not? Let me know in the comments below. So now let's move on to the yellow bit here, under the heading of the road to SegWit activation. It says, instead of closely following Bitcoin's activation plan, the Litecoin team decided to lower the activation threshold from 95% to 75%. Now, I would argue that is a wise move. If there is 100% consensus on something, that would concern me personally, because how do we know we haven't missed something, is what I would think. You know, at least with like 76% consensus, that would be still over the activation threshold for Litecoin, while giving me the confidence that at least a minority still saw things from a different perspective, right? It would give me confidence that there was a different perspective, even if it was wrong. Right? I hope that makes sense to you. Anyway, moving on to the green bit, it says, responding to the news of SegWit's pending activation, the price of Litecoin jumped from $4 per Litecoin at the end of March to nearly $16 at the time of writing, taking its market capitalization to approximately 743 million. And we saw this happening recently in the market roundup, didn't we? Someone asked me also recently whether the activation of SegWit would cause Litecoin's price to jump. Well, my answer to that was no. And I seem to be correct on this, since Litecoin is actually down 3% today. The reason my answer is no is because the price has risen in anticipation of the activation. Right? Traders want to position themselves ahead of an event so they can ride the wave that is triggered by the event. If they wait for the event itself, it's often too late, and the price has almost made most of its move. The major move was already gone by the time they get to it. And I describe this as outcomes already being priced in prior to the event itself. And we saw the same thing with the run-up to the Bitcoin ETF announcement. The difference with Litecoin here is that this wasn't sudden and absolute, as in a either or. It was gradual and transparent, like everyone could see the progress. So that meant the price could move in unison with the amount of miner support that was visible. And then further down here, there's this whole section called Other Altcoins Adopting SegWit. And this whole section, I'm not going to read any of it because it just talks about what I have seen people call the SegWit pump, which is where these smaller coins announce that they are integrating the segregated witness technology purely in an attempt to get into the headlines and attract speculation from the, get-rich-quick crowd. And as ever, the intention behind a pump of the price is for the instigators to sell at a high and make out like bandits. Now, I'm not accusing any particular coin mentioned in this article of doing that. I'm just reporting what I have seen in the way of a discussion about the so-called SegWit pump. So with that, let's move on to Lightning, the Lightning Network on Litecoin. It says, on Tuesday, French Bitcoin technology company Async announced that they have tested their Lightning Network on the Litecoin testnet, which has been running SegWit for weeks. Now, there's lots of technical terminology in there. So this is a Bitcoin technology company. They have been testing the Lightning Network technology, but they've been testing it on Litecoin, and they've been running it on SegWit for several weeks. So most developers I hear talk about the Lightning Network. They say they prefer SegWit to be active before that because it makes Lightning more robust. So you've got Litecoin, which is similar to Bitcoin genetically, very, very similar. Then you've got the SegWit upgrade on top of that, which fixes things like transaction malleability. Then you can build the Lightning Network on top of that to create payment channels, microtransactions, and massive scale. But this is the significant point that I made earlier on why the story here is bigger than simply increasing the capacity on the Litecoin network. Right? There is a big difference between running segregated witness and the Lightning technology on a test net and then running it on the main network. And the reason I say that is because until you run it in the chaos that is the main network, with all the random human beings doing random transactions at scale, there are unknowns that you will never uncover until you launch it. So activating Segregated Witness and the Lightning technologies on Litecoin is a way of running these two technologies in a live environment amongst the chaos, but doing it on a $750 million blockchain rather than a $21 billion blockchain like Bitcoin. So thanks for joining me today, guys. If you liked this episode, hit the like button. If you disliked it, hit the dislike button. Please leave me a comment below with some feedback and get subscribed. And please support the Cryptoverse and boost cryptocurrency adoption by going to cryptoversity.com/podcast and becoming a patron. From just a few dollars a month, you can secure Cryptoversity's future, get unlimited access to all Cryptoversity courses, and access a private patrons-only chat group where you get direct access to me. That is all for today, guys. I'll be back tomorrow with another episode of the Cryptoverse. So until then, it's me, Chris Coney, saying bye for now.